40 years ago, two young girls were kidnapped. Their disappearances were less than a month apart. 5-year-old Judith Elwell was the first to disappear. She was last seen in her home in this neighborhood near Northwest 10th and Portland. She disappeared on July 6, 1967. More than 300 police officers and neighbors combed Northwest Oklahoma City. It was labeled as one of the most extensive and exhaustive searches at that time. Detectives were puzzled. It was as if the young girl had vanished into thin air. The only clue? A blue tennis shoe found near an abandoned house not far from the Elwell's home. John Greiner, a reporter with the Oklahoman, was one of several people who covered the case.
The search of the area lasted for 3 days, but the police did not give up on the case. After a certain time, they concluded they had every bit of evidence they could find. But, they never did quit looking for clues and things like that.
In the following weeks, flyers about the missing 5-year-old were posted in cities all across Oklahoma and in neighboring states. Despite the endless search for clues, Judith's parents never gave up hope.
I went out to the Elwells a couple of weeks after their daughter disappeared, and Mrs. Elwell had a dress draped over her daughter's bed that was like a Sunday dress, a special dress, and she had it there waiting for Judith when Judith came back.
As authorities searched for answers in Elwell's apparent abduction, another girl vanished. August 3rd, less than a month after the Elwell case began, Brenda White went missing. The 6-year-old disappeared outside a grocery store here in Midwest City. All that was left behind was her bike.
I was struck by the similarities, and the fact that in 1 month we had 2 major disappearances and major searches. It was scary, I think, for people. It always is.
As fears of a kidnapper spread through the city, the search for White became larger and more extensive than the last. Detectives started comparing the cases, looking for clues. Dr. Shauna Clary, a criminologist at the University of Central Oklahoma, examined the cold case.
In my opinion, probably both of the abductions were done by strangers. Probably there was a lure or a con in both cases, which is common with stranger abductions. If you're looking at potential perpetrators, you could have had somebody who, one victim was in an area where he worked, one victim was in an area where he lived.
November 18th, nearly 4 months after the girls vanished, 2 hunters found a shallow grave at an abandoned home near Hara. Detectives found a skull, bones, and a few strands of hair.
So I think he had some knowledge of that area, the dump site. Sometimes perpetrators go back and visit dump sites. You don't know whether he did or not. And so it's too bad that they didn't find the body earlier.
They also discovered a small child's dress crumpled in the grass. The dress belonged to Brenda White. But the remains were in such a poor state the medical examiner could not determine the cause of death. Over the next few years, detectives traced down numerous leads.
They had some suspects, I want to say in Missouri, on Judith Elwell, but they both had alibis. A few years later, a teenage boy was taken into custody by the Oklahoma County Sheriff, who thought that this kid might have some information relating to Brenda White. But the district attorney decided that he really didn't know anything that could help the case.
Probably whoever did it's long gone. If you're talking about somebody between the ages of 18 and 25, you're talking about somebody in his or her 60s. It's pretty rare to see somebody come forward 40 years down the road with a confession about a crime.
I don't know if they'll ever find who abducted either one of those girls. And it's been so long.